I'm afraid that there is a bit of a misconception that when there's theft from shops, that there's ever been a time when, police cars with blue lights have come around the corner and arrest people. We've all pre cost of living crisis, whatever point you want to say we've gone into that, we receive often very sketchy support from the police, and many times members would report shop theft and it would not be investigated properly. And the how I would characterize theft in our members' stores was repeat offenders, usually trying to fund an addiction, and stealing to order, stealing for resale. And now we're into this, the heart of this cost of living crisis, which of course I'm afraid is going to get worse. We're seeing reports about stealing for need and people in particularly difficult situations. What we are seeing when I speak to our members, they are seeing exactly the same as they saw a year ago and 2 years ago and 5 years ago and 10 years ago. The people who steal from shops are doing so to fund addiction. They are repeat offenders, or they are stealing to order. So I think there's a bit of a misconception about tough times for many families up and down the country being reflected in the change in that behaviour. That's not what our members are saying at all.
And that is such an important point, James, and I'm drill into it just a teeny wee bit to make it crystal clear, because it's kind of what I suspected when I read this as well, is that if we've been suffering a genuine cost of living crisis for 6 to 12 months, which I think is reasonable because of the energy prices, but not 2, 3, 4, 5 years, you're saying here on this programme that, in fact, the incidence of shoplifting's not really changed over that period of time. It's always been a problem for the reasons that you and Bob agree on. People who are addicted, people who are nicking stuff to flog, to buy drugs or whatever it might be. It hasn't rocketed because the goings got rough out there.
It's gone up, but I don't necessarily think, we can't link that to economic circumstances. But we have seen an increase in shop theft over a period of time. But I think the drivers of that are sadly the same as they've been for a long time. And Neil referred to it there. How do we then deal with this rather than getting into sort of this terrible cycle we're into? Well, we have to help those people with addiction problems. We have to find ways of getting them out of that cycle. And that means that there needs to be proper intervention from the police and from the court system, not just to put people in prison for a long time. It's not allowable under the guidance anyway, but to divert them into programs and supports, which will mean that they're not in a position where they're in their own circumstances, they're having to steal from our members and others all the time. So there needs to be and this is not new, this has been happening for a long time, but we need to up the amount of support we're giving to try and break that cycle.